2701 Albuquerque.
Okie dokie. Welcome back, Albuquerque. We're in this Embraer E170. We are traveling from Albuquerque, and we are going to be headed all the way over to Houston, George Bush Intercontinental Airport. The ICAO code is KIAH. Let's jump on board. So we are in this E170. I've got the flight plan set up. I'm glad I did it before I was recording, simply because it took a while to get it set up. This aircraft is very touchy. It wants everything exact and perfect. Let's just go ahead and look at this flight plan. We've already got our flight clearance. We are flying on the VATSIM network today. Our transponder code is 0714. Sorry if you heard a little bit of scratching there. The microphone was touching my beard. Alright, so let's go into the flight plan and just observe what flight plan that we do have set up. Today we are leaving on a standard instrument departure. So let's go ahead and take a quick peek at that so that we can evaluate whether our flight management system here has set up the correct departure points and altitudes and speeds. Okay, so if we're leaving on runway 8, which we're anticipating, everything so far is looking good. Let me just drag this in here. We'll slide it. Let's see how we can do this. Alright, see if you guys can see it there. Alright, we're going to zoom in. Here's runway 8, DLSOL, there it is right there. But the most important thing is that we need to be below 9,000 at Yuglu. So here's Yuglu, 9,000 below. So it does have the SID, Standard Instrument Departure, typed in right. Let's just double check our next one just so we can get a warm fuzzy. It'll disappear for a second. I'll make it come back up. Alright. So now we've got 11,500 above, 11,500 above, max speed 250. So I'm going to stop there and just assume that we are good to go with our FMS. We've also got our takeoff information already plugged in here just to show you we've been working hard. We're taking off flaps 2, of course, and here's our V speeds, and our pitch is 11 for the takeoff pitch, which basically translates to 5.5 up on the takeoff pitch. Let's go ahead and turn our hydraulic pump electric A, or hydraulic pump A, on. So we'll do that, and we're also going to start the APU since we're on ground power at this point. While that's happening, let's go ahead and pay particular attention to our trim, which is right here. We're going up to 5.5. I have to take my hand off the trim button every now and then, and I'll get this alert. You'll hear her. There you go. Just letting you know that your trim is moving.
1779 cross 5 miles from Kristen, cross Kristen at or above 9,000.
Alright, 5.5 is where it should be. There we go. Trims are set up.
Looks like
alright, and this is another ERJ Embraer. This is, I think, a 175, but that's pretty much what you're going to see on here at this airport. Okay, let's go ahead now and turn our red beacon on, since we are getting ready to depart. And then furthermore, we're going to come here on this. This is kind of a fake interface that we use just to get the aircraft all set up. As you can see, I have my fuel on. We've got about 11,000, well, actually not about, we do 11,023 pounds of fuel. But we have to come over here, so this is more or less for the simulation world that we're doing here. So let's go ahead, and because we are going to be moving on the ramp, let's go ahead and go back to radio, and we're going to put this to transmit the transponder. And we're going to use our generic pushback that we have. So we're just simply going to disengage the parking brake, engage the tow, and we're going to start heading aft. In the meantime, I will go ahead and disconnect that. We'll just safely look outside the window As you can see here as well, here's another Embraer. We are flying a different livery. We are still United Express, but we have an older paint job to separate us from the rest.
Understand your level 370.
As you can see, there's other Embraers at the United Gate. Alright, so we're just going to push far enough back so that we can basically make a nice left turn out of here. Make sure our wings clear this, which I think that's sufficient. Now, folks, what do you think? I think we've been far enough back, so we'll go ahead and stop. Alright, it has stopped. We'll disengage it. And now we have most certainly put the parking brake back on. Let's go up top and make sure, just once again, that we've got a red beacon on, nav logo, snow smoking, fasten seat belts are on.
Descent into Eagle 6.
We're just going to do some overhead panel stuff, even though I don't anticipate needing any extra light. And what I like about this aircraft, everything else is set up to start, so it's super simple. Now we're going to come down here. We're going to observe that the parking brake is most certainly set, which it is. And then we're going to come right on over here, and we're going to start number 2 first. So we'll monitor that this stays in the start, and you're also seeing now that we have ignition. These engines come up pretty quick. You can see it's still registering, so it wasn't done in its process, so we don't want to rush anything. Alright, now we're good to go ahead and start the first engine. Dust cover open to the start position. As you can see here, ignitions are in the auto. They'll stay there. We still have it on ignition here, as you can see. Once the ignition process is done, that IGN will eventually extinguish itself, especially once this is reading on N1. And actually on this aircraft, it's just saying ignition is set to auto, but it did extinguish, so there you go. Just had to be a little patient with the aircraft. Alright, now we're going to come here, and we are going to set up our map. We want the nav aids on, we want the waypoint identification, we want the progress stated right here, the progress. We want the vertical profile, which is here, and we'll put the weather and the terrain on once we get up. So this is what we want, so we're just going to click on that. That is sufficient. Now we're also going to put our auto brake to RTO for takeoff, and we're going to drop our flaps, which you're going to see once I get them selected. We're going to make sure they're indicated here. You can also see a representation of the tips of the wing going down to indicate the degrees of flaps that are being used, which is pretty slick. Alright, now we need to set our MCP up for our top altitude.
Southwest 2457.
Top altitude for this departure is flight level 200, so let's type that on.
Roger, Southwest 2457.
Alright, so we are going to go all the way up to flight level 200. There we go. That is all set up. Let's also put both sides of the first officer and officer into the FMS so it follows that. And as well, we want to turn on our flight directors, which they're already on. They were. I turned them off. Now I turned them back on. Now that is set up here, we also want to go and observe our flap speeds, and I'll tell you why here in a second. So we're at flaps 2 at 215 knots, so we're only going to set, well, it's already set for 200, because you always want to make sure that you're not overspeeding on your flaps. Alright folks, and I do believe, phone ringing here, I do believe that the aircraft is pretty much good to go. Let's check up one more thing up top, which we need to turn the APU off. Again, everything here is pretty much auto, so that's great. So now the APU is turning off and the aircraft has recognized that the main engines are on, so it already switches the power over to the actual generators for us. And again, that's something else that's very user-friendly with this aircraft. Alright, so lastly, we want to get our departure heading. If we are departing on from runway 8, let's just make sure our heading is set up to 79. So we can do that a few ways. We can either click the tip of this once we get to the runway and just follow that heading, or I can pre-select it, which I'm going to pre-select it at this point. As you can see here, 79 is in there, and we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and just double check the MCP once again. We've got our altitude, we've got our speed. We'll get the lateral navigation and vertical navigation and all that stuff set up once we get there. I probably will do an initial climb under the flight level change and just make sure that the aircraft is ascending or staying below certain altitudes. So let's get out of here. Albuquerque Center, United 318 with the weather is ready to taxi.
United 318, since you've called for clearance, tower's online, 120.3.
Okay, we appreciate that. We'll jump over to tower 120.3 United 318. Talk to you soon. Alright, so as you can see, since we're on the VATSIM network, the tower wasn't online, in which they are online now. And so you get these little updates, and so
United
since
462, would you like direct
tower is online, we can also jump over and get the weather. So let's switch over to, there's no ground, so we'll switch over to tower. Like you said, 120.3.
7, or correction, 462, clear direct Peach Springs.
So we'll put that there. We're going to leave him in departure there, and we're going to put the ATIS in COM 2. The ATIS is 11, let's clear that out. I need to get some lights on this thing too. 118.0. So we'll plug that in and switch that over, and then we'll come down here to the COM 2 and we'll pick that up really quick.
ILS out of service. Advise on initial contact. You have information Foxtrot. Albuquerque International Sun Airport 8 is information Foxtrot 0252 Zulu. Wind 100 at 14. Visibility 10. 25,000 scattered. Temperature 17. Dew point -5. Altimeter 3013. Visual and ILS approach is in use. Landing and departing runways 8 and 3.
See ya.
North.
Alright, so we've got 8 and 3. We've got the current ATIS. So at this point, let's just type in, let's just go ahead and type in our, it is 3013.
Albuquerque Center.
Now we've got 3013, and one thing we want to observe too is that we do have the tower on, so we need to switch that over. And then information Foxtrot is current. Albuquerque Tower United 318, information Foxtrot on board is ready to taxi.
Yeah, 318, thank you for Foxtrot, runway 8, taxi via Alpha.
Runway 8 via Alpha, United 318. Alright, so
5294,
there we go.
Yeah,
Alright,
have a good day.
so let's go ahead and make sure our nose wheel steering is on. Alright, it should be on now. And let's see if I can get some of these lights situated here. The GPS, we'll get it in the air. We're okay, you guys can see all fine. Alright, let's go and ensure parking brake will be released. Parking brake is released. Alright, we're just going to make sure we have a nice, easy taxi here. Alright, this should be Alpha here. Zoom a little bit further back from that, like we're kind of close here. Alright, we're on Alpha. Like we can zoom back a little bit more. Making our way to the old rusty dusty tip of the runway. Then we will most certainly get out of here.
United 318, are you ready for departure, sir?
Yes, United 318 is ready for departure at this time, sir.
Yeah, 318, roger. Land 100 at 14. Runway 8, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 8 cleared for takeoff for United 318.
Yeah, 318, just so you can pre-program it, Albuquerque approach is hopped online, so your new departure frequency will be 127.4.
Okay, we'll go ahead and type in that frequency before we take off for United 318. Thank you. Alright, so let's do what he said. He's saying another controller is on there, which is approach, which will be 127.4. So now we need to program in 127.4, and then center we'll have to go back and reprogram. So now we do have approach on there, and that's all squared away. And now we can go up top and get our strobes on, get our runway turn off, and also handle that business. Alright, parking brakes are released. Flaps to 2, speeds are set. The only thing we really need to activate now is going to be the auto throttles, which we just did. And we can also activate this nav button here. Alright, we are all centered and ready to go. Alright, takeoff power is set. Alright, up we go. Positive rate. Alright. Now we can come over and activate the autopilot, of course.
318, contact approach now. Have a good day.
Over to departure, United 318. You have a good day as well, sir. Alright, now we can also come over here, hit the VNAV button, and now we'll observe the aircraft do what it needs to do, and we're also going flaps up, as you observe here, before we make our contact. Gear is up, flaps are up, landing lights are still on, and the aircraft is in the LNAV and the flight level change mode. So we are going to have it to where it's on the FMS. Actually, I'm going to control the speed.
Albuquerque, 589, clearance Dallas Low.
Let me just
589. Are you accepting also do we depart to Mexico transition? Negative, we're at flying with 589. 589, Roger.
Alright, let's go over and go over to departure before we get in trouble. Albuquerque to departure, United 318 is 8,100 climbing via SID.
United 318, Albuquerque approach. Good evening. Flight level 200 air contact.
Up to flight level 200 for United 318. Alright. So we're just making sure we don't miss any of these altitude constraints, of course. We'll speed up slightly. And I believe 230 is our constraint. Now, one thing that we'll do, we'll just come over here and we'll look at what our altitude says for our next point. As you can see now, the aircraft is going to pitch up in order to stay on our departure. So that's pretty nice. And folks, we have conducted a departure from Albuquerque, and we are headed now to Houston, as we should. Let's jump up top now and get those landing lights off. We have past 10,000. Landing lights are coming off. Everything else up top looks good. APU is off. And now we can enjoy this wonderful departure. Alright, we are getting close to our top of descent. So at this point, we must go ahead and make sure that our MCP is appropriately set. Alright, so come over here to the altitude. First of all, let's put it on VNAV. Start slowing it down. Alright, getting that squared away. Now to accurately ensure that we have the VREF, the winds are at 8. So if we add 8 to 126, that makes our V approach at 134, folks. So let's go put all that in, which we're going to do now. Alright, so first, let me do something here. Let me just adjusting this so the aircraft doesn't climb so aggressively. And now we'll come down here and put our VREF, our landing speeds in, and let's also get this to 10,000. We got to be at 10,000 at Mascot. We will. As you can see, we're traveling, getting ready to travel through some crowds now. Some clouds now. There I go again, not being able to talk. Alright, I'm going to go ahead at this point. It's getting kind of hazy out there. You can start seeing some more water. Some lakes and stuff here in pretty Texas. Alright, let's decrease our range here as well. There we are. Now let's come over here and we're going to hit our performance. We're going to go to landing, of course. Now we're going to put in all of our V speeds. Our VREF, as we said, was 126. The approach, 8 knots plus, so 134. Our climb out, just in case we have a missed approach, it's going to be 142. And flaps back up and clean, 195. So now we have our landing speeds put in. So that is good for us. Once we get pretty much, let's see, Mascot 9 miles, 12 miles. Yeah, once we almost get direct Domino, that's when I'm going to go ahead and put in the ILS information. Let's go over here. There we go. Make sure we're 10,000. There with no problem. Alright, and the altimeter, of course, folks, that we need to observe is 3008. So let's plug that in. Alright, we have the altimeter now set for 3008. We're getting ready to be lower than that speed there. And of course, let's start slowing us down now. Alright, aircraft is slowly going to start slowing down on its own the best it can without me touching the speed brakes. Let's check the landing runway elevation. Let me square up the heading really quick. Alright, heading is all squared up. But like I said, we're not going to mess with it until we get on this course heading here. Runway landing is more than enough. Alright, we're probably going to do the ILS just to make sure. It'll be 33 right that we're taking. ILS code is 1119. So let's go ahead and plug that in. 111. 0.9. Switch that over. And we'll put it on the comm or the nav radio 2 as well. 111.9 is there now, so we have that all set up. And then of course our approach course is 329. So let's get that set up as well. Alright. Let's get us down to the 250 because we'll be at 10,000. Now in order to put our, we have to hit this preview. Now this comes available and the final approach course is 329. So now we're going to make this go to 329. You can see this bearing indicator moving as well as this course. Over to 329 of course. And there you go. Now we have our ILS all set up, but we'll still need to have the aircraft recognize the fact that we want that approach. So there's Domino. Once we get to this point and kind of square up our heading, I'll put it into the heading mode to Domino, and then from Domino we'll definitely be doing a right, let's see, coming down to Domino. Yeah, we'll be doing a slight right turn so that we can get downwind from the runway, which will basically turn to a southern heading of, you know, directly south of our 329 course heading. Alright, so now we're direct mascot. Let me just let the aircraft stabilize its little turn there. Still banking left, of course, slightly. All right, and we're just going to go on down to 9,000. All right, slowing our speed up slightly. Heading is all squared up. We are now in heading mode. So now we're going to come down here. We're going to go to nav. Actually, I'm sorry. Let's go to, yeah, we'll go to nav, arrival. And let's pick ILS 33 right. Now, in order to activate it, we got to pretend that we're doing one of these here. So we'll just say the gusher. Let's activate it. Now the first point that we really need to worry about is DUDME. So now we're going to go to flight plan. And we are going to go. Let's see, we'll do next. We're going to click this in. Now we're going to go to previous. And we're going to activate that. So now the aircraft thinks we're direct DUDME, but there's no worries. And actually, technically, we could technically go direct to that point. So let's hit our nav. Once we get a little closer about to this point, I'll straighten it up. Or we get back on heading mode. And actually, we could probably do that now. Let's do that now. Back to heading mode, so we're going to turn this way. And we're at our 9,000 feet, of course. Let's go ahead and reduce our speed to 230 because we're coming in pretty quick here, folks. Alright. There we go. Now we're going to put the now we have it on VOR1, of course. We don't need the FMS anymore. And of course at DUDME we need to be at 2000. So let's go ahead and continue our descent. We'll just see what it looks like at 2000 here. And I'm going to, even though I just changed that range, let's change it back so we can see where that gets us at the 2000 mark. And it's pretty good. It's right there, but we still have to make a turn, so that's fine. Let's actually, we can kind of make it just come right there. Keep our descent going just fine. So we know once we get parallel here, we can go ahead and just go a little bit past it, come up, make our left turn so that we're at the 30 degrees or less intercept for the ILS, and we'll bring her in. Let's increase that range again, or decrease it. Alright, got about 31 nautical miles there, so no worries here. In the meantime, we'll put the auto brake to, sometimes I don't land right at the mark I should. We'll keep it on low. And we'll see how that works out for us, especially because the terminal is basically at the end of runway 33 right. I'll give you guys a snapshot of this here in a minute. Observe ourselves going through those clouds. Alright. Today we are supposed to park at E11. Hopefully the scenery doesn't crash the sim. Let's see here. Let me just take a look at the parking gates for E11. Alright, this thing is all mixed up. So, I'm going to share this with you guys quick. Alright, so here is E11 on Terminal E. So between this last little U, E11 is going to be one of 4 gates on this wall here, the second in. If we go and look at our airport information, that is this terminal here, and we are landing on runway, let me zoom it in a little more, 33 right. So as you see, we're going to come all the way up and maybe try to get off on Whiskey Golf and then come on over here so that we can taxi on Romeo Bravo all the way over here. So this airport's a very strange little airport. But we do what we got to do here. Alright, let's start bringing our speed back slightly. We don't want to smoke in here too hot, so we'll come down to 210. And we'll let the aircraft lead that speed. Alright. Just breaking through those clouds there, as you can see. Or thought we were. Joke was on us. Alright, so we pretty much have the aircraft all set up. The one thing that we did forget to do as I'm going down my little checklist flow here is to turn on all our landing lights. But normally we would have ATC helping us out with that, so that's why we got distracted. But now we're back on. Strobes, nose, runway turnoffs, and all landing lights are on at this point. Here is the point here where we need to make sure we pass that. We'll come around, we'll make a nice left turn to intercept the ILS appropriately. In the meantime, we're going to just enjoy this wonderful view. Aircraft is doing pretty good, slowing itself down naturally. And a lot of that's based off of our rate of descent. Track IR coming on. There we go. Let's just, we can even increase that a little bit now, or pitch up. So we'll hit this mark again. We are going to come up a little bit, then we're going to make a turn so that we can hit this point at 30 degrees. I'm not going to bank on IFR conditions. Trying to get a visual of the field anywhere. It's probably too far off over there. That's fine. No more light and fluffy clouds. They got gray. So on the safe side, we will just kind of continue our fail-safe here of arriving with. We'll manually fly it in, but I want my visual cues set up, and I want to be on the ILS just to make it easier for me, of course. Don't forget what our VREF speed is. It's 134. I'm sorry, VREF is 128 or 126. And the VREF is 134. We've got our appropriate field altimeter set in. We've got our auto brake to low. We've got landing lights on. At this point, we don't have any flaps, but once we get to 200, we'll drop it down to flaps 1. So as we make our turn to intercept this waypoint, I'll slow the aircraft so we can start getting our flaps and prepare for landing. Starting to get some buildings and some other scenery down there as we work our way into the Houston area. Now we can go ahead and let's bring our aircraft to an acceptable speed. Once I get below 205 knots, I'm going to extend the flaps. Once we get a little bit further from this point, we'll go ahead and execute our turn and get ready to land. There's 205. We're going to observe first stage of flaps coming in. Speed check, flaps 1. See the barber poles come up here. Now we are at flaps 1. I've calculated this for us to land at full flaps today, of course. All right. Let the aircraft continue to do what it needs to do. Until we start making our turn. Come down here and open the range up so I can calculate my turn appropriately. Alright, just a little bit more, then we are going to turn for sure to a heading of, we'll probably do a heading of 30 initially. Alright, we're nice and low, flaps 1. Let's execute our turn. Alright, so there's where we want to be. We'll approach it come up this way till we have it in good visual, and we'll make our turn to intercept appropriately. So don't worry about this line. This other line here with this white point, that's what we're paying attention to. Not this bottom one. Let's just make a call out on Unicom. Even though we're on the VATSIM network, I don't know if there's any pilots out there, but if they are, they're monitoring Unicom, and I'll make a call out. George Bush, Intercontinental. United 318 is at 2,012 nautical miles from Dudley. We'll be making a straight-in approach into runway 33 right for George Continental. United 318. Alright. So we did what we could do there. Steady as she goes. All right. A little bit past. Another airport there that we're crossing here in the Houston area. A little bit more here, then we'll execute our turn, of course. Once the aircraft gets to about right here, I'm going to execute that turn and come on in. Less than 30 degrees on the ILS. Once we make our turn and get closer to here, I'll drop it to 170 on the speed. And of course, we will most certainly start dropping our flaps and getting into the runway. So hopefully we land on 33 right and make that taxiway of Whiskey Golf so that we can do our labor taxi on over to the correct terminal to park this aircraft where it needs to go. I actually like the fact that it's cloudy, not raining right now, so we can get a good little scenery here of the Houston area, of course. Just a little more. Key is not to make your turn too early. All right. Approach heading course, of course, is 329. So we will be turning close to the course heading, of course. Just a little more. All right, you guys have been patient enough. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, now we are going to come over here. We've got to zoom in, and now we are going to start activating our buttons. We're going to go ahead and hit the approach button. Now we are already on the localizer. As you can see, we did our turn great, folks. Our glide slope is not activated yet, simply because we have not captured it. We're at 2,000. Once we get to this point here, all that's going to change. Alright, let's go here and decrease it one last thing to 5 nautical miles. There we go. So now we'll go ahead and slow our aircraft down to 170. As you can see, is the runway's off in the distance. Alright, speed check flaps 2. Flaps 2 is coming down. Alright, don't forget V approach is eventually going to be 134. But we're not going to rush it. Everything is looking good. We'll start getting the glide slope. Glide slope should become active shortly. Alright, we're going to get here to 2,000 and then we should see the glide slope activate. Alright. Once we see this cue drop and come in the middle, the aircraft will also start to pitch down along with it. All right. Cruising right along. We're getting ready to drop the landing gear here, of course. The next point, we should be at 1,600 feet at Jolty. So we should start seeing the aircraft decide to capture the glide slope here any second. If not, we'll make sure we do it. We have 3.4 nautical miles there. Still haven't seen any action here yet. Alright folks, let's go ahead and drop the landing gear. Landing gear is coming down. We're going to type in our approach speed. Of 134. Our glide slope indicator is active, so we'll be getting that here in a second. And I'm going to flaps full, of course. Alright, and we are on the glide slope. Alright folks, here we come to do some landing. Alright, and I think from this point we can go ahead and take everything off. Alright, autopilot's off and the auto throttles, of course. The rest is left for us to do it. Let me trim the plane down here slightly. She is very, very touchy since those flaps are out and we're going a little bit faster than we should. Coming back on the power slightly so we can bleed some of this speed since we're over speed slightly. Alright, 1,000, we're looking good. Alright, just bringing this bad boy in as we should. Speed looks good. Looks like we got a good glide slope here. All right, we're all visual here now. Doing good on the speed.
100. Light slow. Light slow. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
All right. There we are. Down, of course, we go. And we'll use some reversers. Reversers are on. Reverse free.
Auto brake.
All right. We'll see if we can ease off here. And whatever's going on with that taxiway didn't look like we could even taxi there, so let me get my track IR. Is kind of funny here. Anyway, folks, welcome into George Bush Intercontinental.